We now continue with more of the Mark Milton Show with the Smash.
We are broadcasting from the Miller Furniture Studios, Miller, Mueller, furniture.com. Today, I want to talk about tax resolution groups, who you cannot find in St. Louis most of the time, okay? A lot of these groups, you see them on TV, you hear about them, they're national.
You get their letters.
You get their letters. They troll public lien, public filings to look for troubled taxpayers. They send them letters. They harass them. They literally will send them notices that make it look like it's coming from an official taxing authority. It'll have a seal on it. It'll say, a lien's been filed against you. You need to call us to resolve this. Well, it's actually one of these groups that, maybe out in Wyoming or Montana or whatever it may be. And they also buy up a lot of the Google AdWords. So if you Google for a tax resolution, let's say you Google, I need tax help, or, even if you Google, I need a tax lawyer, they have bought up a lot of the Google AdWords so that they show up at the top of the Google search as a paid ad. So somebody might be thinking they're getting a tax lawyer when, in fact, most of these groups maybe have one lawyer on the staff, maybe have no lawyers on the staff. It's basically a group of enrolled agents, which is a designation given by the IRS to allow people to assist with tax problems. The problem with that is, number one, the biggest issue with it is if you go with one of these groups and they're not a lawyer, you don't have attorney-client privilege in a criminal setting. So if you go to them and you say, "Hey, I haven't filed my tax returns in 10 years," you're basically admitting to a crime, okay, for not filing taxes. And so while that may be protected on the civil side from disclosure, there is a practitioner privilege that applies to these types of groups. It doesn't apply criminally. And when you talk about attorney-client privilege, your primary concern should be potential criminal prosecution. So that's number one. Number two, most of them don't actually have offices in the cities where they market. So they might buy a bunch of Regis mailing addresses at different drop boxes at various places. I know there's one national outfit out of Wyoming on their website. They have one licensed attorney who's barred in the state of Wyoming, yet they advertised having a tax lawyer in St. Louis in the Metropolitan Square building at a bogus drop, basically a drop address.
Wow.
So, buyer beware.
People don't know.
Make sure if you've got tax problems, I'm not saying you have to hire me, but you should definitely think about going with an actual tax attorney, somebody who can take a holistic approach to resolving your issues, because that's the other thing. You might have, maybe you need to file bankruptcy. Maybe that might be the best way to resolve your issues. And a enrolled agent or a tax resolution specialist, as some people like to call themselves, they're not going to necessarily have the breadth of, tax law, legal knowledge that I think you need if you've got serious tax problems. Now, if you get a notice from the IRS and, they're saying you owe a penalty or something more minor, maybe it makes sense to go with those groups. But if you've got major problems, I totally recommend going with the tax attorney to try to solve it.
And I totally recommend going with this guy right here. And that is my man Mark right over there, Mark Milton. And he has helped me out massively. I ran into major problems about 13 years ago. It started with the crash of the stock market, the crash of my vocation, and then my wife got sick. And just all the bills that came out of that with a minimal amount of revenue coming in, that can change you up in a very hard way. And I happened to come across this young man as I drive up and down Manchester Road all the time. And finally we met up just really by accident, by coincidence, over at the Subway. And we shared a turkey bacon Bravo.
I think I had the steak and cheese. That's my go-to. Okay. That's my go-to.
I like the turkey bacon avocado, to tell you the truth. And
I got to watch eating those, though, before we broadcast, because I get that, a little indigestion. Smash taught me a tip on the radio. You don't eat a big meal before the radio show.
However, they brought back the $5 footlong. So I don't know. I might wind up being there many more times.
There you go.
Yes, exactly right. But I tell you what, if you need help on the tax side, and you probably do, most Americans do, here's a guy who can expedite what you need taken care of, which means that's going to make it a less cost for you if you got that kind of problem. Because I tell you what, I've had this happen to me before in the 70s, and the IRS came looking for me because I was a hippie back then, so I didn't do no taxes, nothing like that. And so they got me, and I'm swearing to you, the work I had to do to show them that I hadn't cheated the government was more work than had I kept my bills running right. And
you talk about cost too. These groups,
Yeah.
you know, what they'll often do. I've seen it with clients where they'll call me and they'll say, I've been paying $400 a month to the group to resolve my tax problems, and they haven't done anything in 12 months. So they get them hooked into these recurring payment plans, which I find often will cost way more than what I charge people.
Right, exactly,
so I think some people might think, if I use one of these resolution groups, it's going to be a lot cheaper than going with the tax lawyer. And that's not necessarily the case. Every situation, though, I will say is different. You know, it's hard people want to have flat fees. They want certainty. But, you know, every situation is a little bit different. There might be more work involved. But, you know, with any of my clients, I have that frank conversation with them. I said, look, we can do it on a flat fee basis, but here's exactly what I'm going to do. Or I say, look, this is a mess. I don't know what this is going to look like as far as the total work involved, but so we're gonna, you know, bill by the hour, and you know, we'll treat you fairly, and we'll show you everything we did with that time, and that way, both sides kind of know, hey, I'm not getting screwed, I'm not getting nickel and dime, and I found that's been a pretty effective way to go about pricing, and you know, I take a lot of pride in just, you know, getting good results for clients, and you know, knowing clients too. I mean, having people in your community that you know you've helped versus some of these groups where they're sort of faceless. You know, you don't really know who you're dealing with. You can't go to their office and you know, like you can with me. I mean, you can stop in my office and say, hey, what's going on? Yeah, we make time for you. So my recommendation, if you've got tax problems, if you've got IRS problems, definitely consider talking to a tax attorney. If you've got questions you want answered anonymously here on the show, you can email us at mark.milton@stltaxlawyer.com. That is my website, stltaxlawyer.com. Remember, the choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements. And I say that because it's also an ethical requirement when you're advertising.
Oh, really?
And that's another piece with these groups. You know, they're not beholden to the same ethical standards that an attorney is, right? A lot of these groups, the people that work there, they just don't have that same standard when treating clients and doing things when working your cases. So also another thing to keep in mind. This is the Mark Milton Show with the Smash. You can find us here, 590thefan.com, themarkmiltonshow.com. Anywhere you podcast, Apple iTunes, please subscribe. We're presenting from the Miller Furniture Studios here, and we just want to wish everybody out there a happy Father's Day. I know it's a hopefully maybe a little rain this weekend's cleared up, and we'll have beautiful day today at some point, and wish you a happy Father's Day, Smash, and
same to you, partner.
Look forward to doing this again next week.
Right on.
The Mark Milton Show with the Smash.